And I think, let's see what it is. I wonder if this is also used by like the Chinese Communist Party or something. Oh man. Let me try something else. Okay. At least it's recording. Okay. Something's happening. I'll try one time. Is it doing it now? Oh, good, okay. All right, good. Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, all right, it's recording. Okay, what are we doing? So we did the thing in cooperative game theory, which is just honestly like a little taste. So that we could spend like, a whole semester just on that stuff. Most of that work was done in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. That was kind of what the core, a lot of what most game theorists did in the 60s, 70s, 80s was cooperative game theory stuff. And if you look at like some of the earliest texts, the von Neumann Morgenstern book was all about cooperative game theory, essentially, if you ever look at that. And so right from the very beginning, there was kind of the two intellectual trends. There was this thing which emphasized coalitions, and that kind of came from von Neumann Morgenstern, people like Lloyd Shapley, who was a professor here. But there also is a kind of, the other term is sort of, the other streams like associated with MASH, which is non-cooperative game theory, and extensive form games and that kind of thing. So right from the beginning, there's these two things, but a lot of what we consider non-cooperative stuff is much more developed in like since the 80s and 90s and stuff. So anyway, it's kind of like, so when I wrote my dissertation on cooperative game theory, it was kind of like a flashback. It was something which at that time had been not done for a while, but then kind of had gone back. And so, it's kind of like we said last time, the advantage of that kind of cooperative game theory style is that it's tries to not specify every single detail, because in many situations the details don't seem to be important. Like, we're not going to just say at any given time like, who gets to move first, who gets, that kind of thing. Just kind of look at the broad kind of aspects of the situation. So non-cooperative game theory is more in the spirit of like mind and everything, or sometimes of course with difference. So yeah.
Why do you think it didn't take off?
Well,
or we don't see it as much?
No, I mean, it's just a matter of sometimes intellectual trends. One of the reasons, so when I was, I guess I should say this, like when I was in graduate school, at that moment, like I was in graduate school from 85 to 91, that was one of the reasons why non-cooperative game theory kind of became more popular then is because people started to figure out how to use it to solve problems in economics. At least that's, I was in economics. And the cooperative game theory before was used actually just as present in political sciences and econ. It was more stuff about like, kind of like coalitional behavior. Like a very common thing was like, say you have an electoral college, so it seems like the big states have more power than the small states, but how much more power? That's a classic question. That's the kind of thing which Shapley worked on. And so those things are from the 60s and 70s. So the reason the non-cooperative thing became really more popular is because it became super useful to somebody and became useful to talk about problems in economics, mainly having to do with like basically oligopolies, like situations where you don't have tons and tons of people, so you can't use a price clearing model. So if there's a very competitive market, then you can just say, well, if there's any profit, somebody will come in and get it, so you kind of assume profits are zero or something like that. Or a monopolistic market where there's just one, and you just use profit maximization. If there's more, if there's three, you can use both. There's obviously some sort of, you can use, market clearing, and you also can't use just profit maximization. So therefore, you kind of have some sort of strategic thing between. And so that's when people say, oh, we can use game theory for this. And that was that was happening in the 80s, basically, in economics. So what's interesting is that even in econ, so we think of game theory as kind of a econ-driven thing, but even in econ, it wasn't something which people used a lot until like 1980. So like my advisor, a lot of people who are even just 10 years ahead of me, like my advisor, maybe 10 years older than I am, they typically got their PhDs in math departments or operations research departments, not econ departments. And so like the first people who got their PhDs in game theory in econ departments were people like Dufienberg, Genku Cho. They were people who maybe 5 or 6 years ahead of me. So they were among the first to get game theory dissertations in Econ department. So it's a relatively new thing even in Econ. And in fact, like my advisor, Roger Myerson, when he applied for jobs, he actually applied to Econ departments and none of them wanted him. They thought, what is this game theory stuff? This is some sort of crazy thing. And so even with my first job in Chicago, there was only, I was there from 91 to 99. I was like the second game theorist they ever hired me. So it was not super, it wasn't super accepted. It just wasn't. So, and when things become accepted, when they show their utility, basically, when they can say, I can make an argument with this, with this method, people say, oh, I guess the method makes sense then. So political science is similar. Actually, if you think of like people who are about my age who do game theory and political science, typically they got their game theory training in an econ department, like Jim Fearman is like that. The guy who Asamoah is roughly my age. Yeah. So he's an economist. Yeah. But trying to think of like the guy at Berkeley who does returns. Yeah, Powell, exactly right. So, for example, Fearon took classes with Powell, but Powell also took all of Z game theory classes in econ departments. So the people who started teaching, who do mainly work in game theory and were trained in a political science department, it's kind of mid-90s to 2000s. So it seems later than econs, but econ wasn't that long ago either. It wasn't like they were teaching in the 1930s or something like that.
Nashville, mathematician.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we kind of see this thing where, for a long time it was done mainly in math departments, operations, research departments, applied math, and then econ kind of took up maybe in the 80s really, and then in political science 1995, and now it's kind of spreading a little bit. And it used to be kind of seen also as very technical. The main people in econ who did it were very math heavy, but it became more and more kind of just really a useful thing. Just anybody in theory could do it. Like so, that became more of a thing when I was like in the 90s, late 90s, where you saw a lot of people who apply people throw in a model in their paper, and that was common in econ like in the 90s, not common in the 80s. For example, if you look at empirical papers in econ in the 80s, very few of them have a model in them, and so that started to kind of happen when I was an assistant professor. And in political science now you see that more in the last 10 years. Now you'll see sometimes an empirical paper with a model in it, and you didn't see that so as much like in 2005 or something like that. Now you see it more. And that's great because it's basically the whole thing's becoming a little more accessible, democratized. It's that's kind of what happens. I mean, every year we get a little more sophisticated. Every year expectations are raised, which makes it hard to publish. At the same time, that's how we. Yeah, that's how exactly. Yeah, you look at people who got their PhDs in 1950. Look at their dissertations. Gee, I could have written that. But that's kind of how we progress as a discipline. So yeah. Every generation, looks at. It's like if I was that age, I could have come up with hours there. Well, no, it's sort of true, But the other way to think about it though is, 20 years from now, people will look at you that way.
Yeah.
Like in other words, it's not like we're at the end of this by any means. So you could, we're still very much in the era of fundamental discovery, in my opinion. We're not anywhere near like kind of. Like people say, like in physics, a lot of fundamental things are basically done, and so we just have to work on for the small things now. But I think in social science we're far from that. And so, now I think the current trend, which everyone talks, current thing is we have so much data now. There's so much people. It's very hard. Dissertations are very much now built around data, which is great. Because we didn't have that kind of data in the 80s. And some people are saying, oh, we should still remember that there's a theoretical side. That. There's a part of the discipline which is about thinking about new mechanisms, not just verifying or not just sort of testing whether an existing mechanism works. So I kind of believe that too. I feel like, if you look at really influential things, there typically are new kind of techniques, But at the same time, like you look at very new techniques at the time, they came out of very practical problems. Like a lot of statistical techniques came out of like agriculture or stuff like that. The whole idea of statistical sampling came from, there's a guy, not Pearson, but there's a guy who worked for Guinness Brewing. They make beer.
Oh, like student?
Yeah, exactly right. Have you seen those papers? It's an amazing thing. Well, it's not that amazing. It's kind of obvious in a way, right? It's sort of, so his whole thing was, they were like, put barley or something in the beer or something like that. The whole question is how often do I have to dip into this to make sure the barley's fresh or something like that. So obviously, it's costly to kind of go in there 10 times. But obviously, maybe once it's not, so then you kind of have to make a little probability model. That's the model of statistical sample we use today. It kind of came to a very practical thing with Guinness beer. So he was actually a Guinness beer employee. That's like students do. So, things like that. So again, that's, a lot of things come from the interaction between theory and the real world, I guess. So we should embrace that. Okay. Let me do my. I'll put those papers on the website too. Those are pretty cool fun. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about now is we're going to start like a little thing on incomplete information, and I like this part because I have a whole thing about it, and I like the way I teach it. It's a little different from a lot of ways people teach it. So, but I think it's by far the best way. So I have a bad mistake in this kind of. So what we're going to talk about is the games of information. So this kind of stuff was kind of developed when I was in graduate school, kind of. The main people. So we think of Nash, we think of Nash. The main kind of people we think of this Simon and Allen. So these are the people we kind of associate. Of course, other people do too. But when I was in graduate school, we used to joke that there was a whole bunch of papers which is like blah 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 with incomplete information. War with incomplete information, or all government data. So what is incomplete information? The typical thing is something like it's a game where somebody has, say, for example, an informational advantage about the world. Like, say, I know what the weather is tomorrow, but you don't. Like, how does that affect it? So it covers lots of situations, a lot of international bargaining situations. Comes up like, there's two states. Like, who's going to back down? But you don't really know. Like, I might have a secret weapon, and you don't really know that. You might just guess that. So what's the impact of that?
Just to be practical, do we consider all real life situations as games of incomplete information?
Well, not all. Like, for example, like chess or something like that.
Let's do a political science, right? Because I didn't think about that small. But like in terms of just negotiation stuff like that,
All right.
you would assume that everyone
Oh, well, I mean,
would it be more practical rather than assuming because you're like chess or like smaller cities.
Oh,
they have complete information.
yeah, exactly. So in some situations where everything is super clear what we're doing, that would be no complete information. Another example is something like, say we're bargaining, but you know exactly my balance sheet, I know your balance sheet. It's not like some special things going on. That's kind of, you don't have to worry about what the person's
So
thinking.
you can basically calculate the utility.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the kind of thing which people do. So, anyway, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of applications to go into this, and there's still a lot of mileage of this. My particular mileage with this has to do with knowledge of knowledge. So when I was taught this stuff, there's this thing called common knowledge, which is I know something, plus I know that you know it, I know that you don't believe it. And so when I was taught it was seen as a very abstruse kind of philosophical concept, but I got some mileage out of saying this could be an applied concept. So that's kind of why I like teaching it this way, because the setup which I'll give you, it makes that easy to pass. Okay, so when you say games of incomplete information, we talked about, like we were saying, like how is this different from just a regular game? And it's actually not. So most of the topic is basically how to make this into something which is solved in Nash equilibrium. Okay, so what I often like to say is game with incomplete information is not really, you don't even say it's about information, it's really about conditioning. That is what I mean by that. And in a game with incomplete information, it's really about information is what you can condition your action on. Okay? So for example, if you don't know anything, it means like knowing anything with the weather or whatever, it means you just make an action. It's not conditional upon anything. Okay? If you don't, but if you do know something, then you can condition your action on what you know. Okay, so it's actually not really that much about information, it's really about conditioning. So that's one way to think about it, is what can I condition my action on? Okay. And so we'll do lots of examples of that. So even before doing the games though, I'm going to do this very simple model of incomplete information. So there's not even going to be any games or anything, no actions, no payoffs, just simply we're going to think about how we model incomplete information. Okay. So how would you do that? If you were thinking like, I'm in a situation where something's not known, well, how would you model it?
So with like extensive form games, right, you just say, like you draw a line between whether a person knows they're at one place or they're in another
Yeah,
place.
exactly. You've probably seen this before. It's like one, for example, can choose A or B and say that B does this, right? This, if I draw it this way, it means that 2 knows whether 1 chose to be right, right? Okay. But if I draw like a little this thing, or sometimes 2 leaves a dotted line or something, that means 2 doesn't know, right? So this is a graphical way of writing it. And so, there's even so this is a way of writing it with respect to people's actions. But there's a way of writing with it which doesn't even have to deal with actions at all. Okay, so let's like go with. All right. Is it?
Beneath the bridges, hammer doesn't.
Alright, so this is one common way, and the way we'll do it ends up being exactly the same as this. But I'm going to try to think about it in this very simplest way. There's not even people's actions. So if you're in a model information, what is the simplest way of doing that?
Prisoners.
Well, but don't think about actions. It's simply about you're in a situation where you don't know something. How would you model that? Like the weather or something. Yeah, flip the coin. So there's probability. Like so, a lot of this has a lot to do with probability. So have you ever seen the idea of a probability space? Have you ever seen that idea? Yeah. So what is a probability space?
I mean, I know it more in terms of like the distributions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a very, very simple thing, like in a coin is uncertain. The coin is the probability. Flipping a coin defines a probability space. What is that thing? What is flipping a coin? So what's uncertain about the coin?
It's either heads or tails.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you have to write down the things it could be. Yeah? So uncertainty basically, the way you start with uncertainty is like, well, because actually there's more models. So for example, you might not even be able to imagine what it could be. Like, you might not, like, maybe it's raining outside, maybe it's snowing outside, maybe it's like some sort of crazy thing with alligators or something, I don't know. And so, but the typical simplest thing is like, you write down all the things it could be. Okay? And that's my problem. So we write this down, it's typically this large omega, this is a capital omega. This is a set of states of the world. So this is simply a description of all the things which could be, which you don't know. All the things which all the states of the world, so all the states of the world could be.
Possibilities.
Yeah, exactly, all possible things. Okay, and a probability space is simply just what? We've done, like we did a heads or tails. So, for example, if you have a coin, the omega would be like H or T. It's simply simple. Okay, like if it's weather, omega is like, I don't know, sun, snow. Okay. Alright, so if I'm defining a probability space, so what's the next step? Yeah, exactly. You just assign a probability. So this would be a p is the function from omega. Okay, so what is omega? This is a function. P is called omega to like 0 or 1. That probability has to be positive. Okay, so probability distribution. We call it over omega. So for example, if the coin is a fair coin, I would say p of h would be I don't know. Yeah, like that, yeah. P of tails would be. So that's a function defined on here. Just assigning a number or something. If my weather thing say it's I don't know, depending on the P of sun is the other one. P of snow. P of these numbers have to have it. Okay. All right. Have you ever seen this? I'll write down this one. Have you seen one of these things?
If that's a sum.
Yeah, it's a sum, this is at the capital sigma. So I'm summing up, this is a little omega. It looks like a W, but it's kind of, really. For all little omegas, so this is a state of the world, so this is, we're summing up over all states of the world. P omega, this has to be equal to 1 if I sum up all the probabilities. Okay, so this is a probability space. Simplest one that you show the coin is, it could be of heads or tails, and I'm trying to probably each. So like when you say like Poisson distribution or anything like that, it's basically everything probability distribution is same in the world is this, just different ways of summing.
The probability distribution is just basically from 0 to 1.
Well,
That's what that.
yeah, that's what this means. Oh yeah, this is an interval from 0 to 1. It just simply means it has to be a positive number. You can't have a probability of 6. Okay, this is fine. This is our model configuration. This is the same thing as a probability space. Okay. And then the next thing though we'll do is the idea of people having different levels of information about what omega is. So say that I know what the weather is. So for example, you know what the heads know the flip coin split, but I don't. How would I model that?
Are we going to conditional probability?
Yeah, you could do a conditional probability. Like I might see a signal conditional on that one of my probabilities. Right? So what I'm going to do is very similar to that, but it's actually simpler in a way. Okay, so and you don't even have to use probabilities. Okay, so say for example, I don't know whether it's heads or tails, but you do. How would I represent that?
Your probability space is different than mine?
Yeah, kind of. Well, the underlying thing is the same. Okay, the underlying. It's not like my belief. It's not like the head's still half-half, right? Head or tail's half-half, right? But I have different knowledge than you, right? And there's a way which we model that, which this is this is actually just a very basic math thing, but Alvin is the person who kind of really popularized it, which is you represent it by the so-called partition over omega. Okay. So this is my PI. What do I mean by this? This is a strip PI. The strip PI is going to be like an example like this. A partition is going to be a set of subsets of omega. So for example here, what is this? This is a set of subsets of omega. Okay? And the idea is so for example, Pi is going to be something like P1, P2, Pm, where if I union these all up, what does this mean? This is simply the set union of all these things. Okay. This is going to be equal to omega. So this is going to be a set of subsets such that the union is omega, and the intersection is the empty set for all lines in H. What does this mean? It means that there's no overlap between these subsets.
Okay,
So
so that's why we don't put HT.
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. So this qualifies the partition because these things union up to be HT, right? But there's no intersection. So for example, if this was like, this would not be a partition, right? Because it doesn't satisfy this. Okay, so partition is just basically slicing up the world. Okay. Right, so this is one particle partition. What would be another one? So let's say this is person one's partition.
TH versus,
Well, okay, you mean like
depending if the order matters, I guess.
this?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually the same as this because sets. If we define a set, the order doesn't matter in the set.
Okay.
Like something like, yes, for example, we actually didn't talk about the set AB is the same as the BA. But there is, so this would be the same partition, but is there another partition?
Yeah, H and P and the M set.
Yeah, exactly right. So something like P2 would just be like H and T. I guess we usually say that they're not empty. Oh, because that, right? Could it be? I guess yeah. This as it is, it's not. Yeah. I guess we want each one to be not empty. let's say that. Yeah. And yeah. So this is another partition, right? It's just this is kind of so when we can think about partitions as kind of how finely or how coarsely they do the world. This is finer than this. Yeah? This is kind of a coarse partition. There's just one big blob. This is kind of like small things.
Can you explain what partition means here?
So partition, just the definition, is a set of subsets. Okay. I guess I should say. There we go. Set of subsets. I guess you should write that. Where Pi is a subset of P. Sorry, omega. Here. Pi is a subset of omega. The union of Pi is equal to omega, and there's no overlap.
Okay.
And also if they're not.
And the P, is that a different script? Or is it, are there?
This P is a different script because a regular P will be a subset of omega. Okay, whereas this is a set of subsets of omega.
Okay.
That's why we just do this. That's a typical thing. It even doesn't have to be a script. Anyway, what's the interpretation of this? The idea is if say omega and another state of the world omega prime are both in some element P, okay, where P is an element of Pi, okay, then person I can't tell omega and omega apart. So the idea is your partition is kind of how you see the world. So it's lends itself very nicely to a graphical thing. So for example, say we have like heads or tails. Okay, so say that your partition, I'll just use a so-called bubble, like this looks like that. Okay, so this is say partition person one. And if I write it as sets, this is simply like this, right? That's this one here. I guess I'll make it these two. Okay. So graphically it looks like this. Okay, makes sense? So P1 would look like what? What would the partition look like? Yeah, it's two circles. P1. Okay, makes sense. Okay, pretty simple. Extremely simple. But you can actually do a lot with this alone. Like you could write a paper on this. Oh, so for example, let's do the slightly more complicated one of the weather. Say that our omega is like sun, snow, rain. Okay, say that you know everything. Say you wake up, you look at your phone, you know what the weather is. What is your partition going to look like? Yeah, three things, exactly right. So you know everything that looks like that. And then in terms of, that would be like sun, snow, rain. Right? That's what it would look like. Okay, what if you can hear whether something's falling on your roof?
Sun and snow and rain, like snow and rain are in one.
I guess so. Can you hear snow? I guess it depends on what house the snow is. I think my guess is you can hear rain but not snow. Say, I don't know.
So then snow and rain, or snow and sun together.
Yeah, exactly right. So that would be like this, right? For example. Okay, so this would be like. Okay, you see what we're doing? So, in some sense, this person has more information than this, right? Pretty clearly. Like, you'd rather be this person than this person, yeah? Okay, but you can see, what about this person? Say that, like, I don't know, maybe you can observe whether there's water pooling up on your driver or something like that, or, maybe it's like you just saying, maybe you can actually hear the snow. Or you can hear something, but you don't know whether that's something is snow or rain, right? That would be this. Right? So does this person know more than this person?
Depends on the question.
Yeah, exactly, it depends, right? So this person clearly knows more than both of these people, right? But it's not like this person, so in other words, this partition model is kind of very flexible, right? It's not just sort of how much you know, but you can know things about different things than other people, right? So it can be flexible, yeah.
Just real quick, so just the more you can partition omega, it says that you have more information about the true state of the world?
Right.
Is that the idea?
That's the idea, exactly. And say that your partition is like this, what does this mean?
Right, so you have less information about the true state of the
Yeah,
world.
this means you literally don't know anything, yeah, exactly, right. Okay, so I really like this model, it's not taught that much, but it's really very basic, and the nice thing is it's very flexible, like you can,
It's also easy to kind of understand the concept.
yeah, I think so. I like it. Once I gave a presentation, someone said, "Hey, Michael, I noticed that all your papers have partitions in them." And I said, "Yes, that's what I want." Okay, let's do some of the examples. This is awake, asleep. Okay, so say that there's two people who are facing each other. Okay, so that's their nose, so they're facing each other. And say each person is either awake or asleep. Okay, so if that's the case, what are the states of the world if each person is awake or asleep?
Sleep or
Yeah, this person could be awake or asleep, but also this person too, yes?
So 4.
There's 4, right, exactly. So I'm going to write it like SS means both sleep. Oh, let me write it this way. WW, because awake and asleep both start with A, so this means they're both awake, right? This means I'm awake and you're asleep. This means I'm asleep and you're awake. This is where we're both asleep. Okay, that's what a maker looks like. Okay, what is one's partition?
Like WW and WS are together.
Okay, so it looks like this. So this means if these are the same partition, means I can't tell these apart. Right? So this means I'm awake and you're awake. But if I'm awake, so basically if I'm awake,
you can tell.
Oh.
you cannot tell whether the person's asleep or not, right?
So if you're
Yeah.
asleep, you
Huh?
don't. So if you're asleep, you don't. That's not something you.
Right. So I think this is the other one, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like this, yeah. If you're asleep, you don't know the person's awake or asleep. However, if you're awake, you kind of do. Okay, so then it's going to be like this. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is like person one's partition. And if we write it down as a using the sets, it's going to be WW, US, still US. Okay, what about person two? Yeah.
WW and SW, right?
Yeah. WW and SW, will they be the same double or they're different? These are different?
And then those two are.
Yeah, these are two exactly, as above one, exactly. Right, so person twos would be WW, SW, WS, SS, this. Okay, right?
Because those two are possible at the same time without knowledge. They can happen at the same time.
Well, no, each state of the world is distinct. They're not going to happen at the same time. However, person two cannot distinguish between these. Right, exactly. And we also are assuming that when you're asleep, you know yourself whether you're asleep or awake. Right? Whereas, like, it's not like an Inception movie situation where you're asleep but you don't know whether.
Are you really awake, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. I'm going to spin the top and see. Okay, does it make sense? Okay, let's do another. So this would be, as I write as a set, it's going to be WW, SW, SS. Okay, let's see. How about some more examples? How about, this is my roommates. So you say one is either at home or a coffee shop. And two is either at home, coffee shop, or taking a walk. Okay, so if this is the case, what are the states of the world?
Well, there are 6.
There's 6, right? It's going to be like say one is home, or so I guess home and coffee shop, right? And 2 is either home, coffee shop, or taking a walk, right? So I'm going to write like HH, HW, HC, CH, CW, CC. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is what a meg is. Okay. That's this. Okay, what about P1? What is person 1's partition?
Is the idea that if you're taking a walk, they know whether the other person's both at home or at a coffee shop?
Well, I don't know. It's a good question. Like, so if person 2 is taking the walk, okay, so say that we're in this state here.
Right.
2's taking the walk, 1's at home. Does two know this is for sure happening? No, right?
No, okay.
If I'm taking a walk,
Because they don't know if they're at the cafe or taking a walk.
yeah, exactly. So if I'm taking a walk,
If they're home.
Okay.
I don't know whether you're taking a walk. Hold on. Okay, if I'm taking a walk, do I not know anything?
If you're taking a walk, if you left home and the person's there.
Okay, hold
but
on.
That's not.
Well, first of all, okay, let's do person 1 first. Okay, that's good. Let's do it this way. Person 1's not taking a walk. Person 1's either home or coffee shop. If we're here in this state, what does person 1 know?
Whether 2 is home or not.
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, exactly. So exactly. If person 1, so if we're at HH, okay, person 1 knows whether person. Actually, if they're both at home, person 1 knows that fact,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a small apartment. Okay. What if we're at HC? Does person 1 know we're at HC? So there's 1's at home, 2's at the coffee shop.
No.
No, right?
Taking a walk.
You could be taking, yeah, she could be taking a walk. So therefore, I'm going to draw the bubbles. Yeah? Right? Okay. Similarly, if they're both at the coffee shop, what does 1 know? Yeah, that they're at the coffee shop. Okay, but can person 1 distinguish between these 2 things? Nope. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, how about person 2's?
Person 2, I think, has more information.
Yeah. But, you know, the more is not necessarily, you know, well defined, right? It's kind of different in some sense, right? Okay, so let's see. If we're here, does person 2 know? Okay, so here, if they're both at home, do they know that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. If person 2 is here, so person 2 is at home, person 1's at the coffee shop. Okay,
They don't, no.
do they know?
They
Could
can
be
be
walk.
Oh, yes.
I think they do, right? Because person 1 is either home at the coffee shop, right? So
Yeah.
if person 2 sees, oh, my roommate's not here, they must be at the coffee shop. Does that make sense? Okay. How about this one? Yeah, you're similar. Right? How about this? This is interesting. This is where person 2 is taking a walk. If 2 is taking a walk, 2 does not know whether 1 is at home. Okay, so person 2 is like that. Make sense? Okay. So we can do all these things. Let's see. One thing I didn't do. How about if where's awake sleep thing? Okay, what if looks like this? So 1's not looking at. So 2's now looking away. Okay. So what does person 1's partition look like? I guess we're making some assumptions too about. Say if you sleep, you kind of go like this. Huh? What's different is 2 is now facing away. You're like in the library, there's a table or something here, and the other person's just kind of. That's the nose part, right? Nose is. That's,
They only know their own sleep.
well,
They don't change.
I guess yeah, because I guess if you assume that person 2 is not sleeping, we're just like this, but like actually like
Oh, I see.
yeah, I guess 1 doesn't change, right? How about person 2, however?
I'm assuming they just like wake
Yeah.
up, don't move, right? That's
Yeah, exactly. We're assuming that you don't. Yeah, exactly. You know, they don't have like their head being propped up by something. How is person 2 different now?
they can't differentiate differentiate between.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, when they were asleep, they couldn't tell, but now even when they're awake, they can't tell because they don't even look at us. Yeah. Okay, so.
Why wouldn't you circle the wall? Or, oh, never mind.
Oh,
I just-
yeah, if you circle the wall, it means that you don't even know yourself whether you're awake or not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay, oh, I mean, anyway, there's all these fun things. All right, so we have the setup. Okay, the next thing we do is, this is just for fun. And so I'll notice also it's super simple. You don't even have to use probabilities. Just, you know, you just divide up the state of the world, the things that you know, the things you don't know. Okay. So what we're going to do is kind of play around with things a little bit. We say that an event E is just a subset of. So an event, this is the probability theory thing. For example, the event that its head has is simply the set heads, right? The event that one of us is at home is what event? The event one of us is at home. At least one person's home. What would that event be? It's a subset of this, right? Yeah, exactly, right. That event would look, yeah, exactly. H, 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 W, C, C, H. And just graphically, we would look kind of like that, right? It'd be these four things. That would be an event. So any event is just a subset of things which could happen. It's pretty basic too. Okay. So now, given this event, we can do the following here. When we say that person, well, let's see. Let Pi, so that's given subset of the world. We say Pi of omega is the element. Okay. That's a partition. CPI, which contains. What does this mean? So, for example, say that my partition is over here. Person one, say what's P1 of HH? Okay, it's basically, so if I use the term bubbles, it's the bubble which contains HH, right? So what is this? P1 of HH? Yeah, just a set of H. How about P1 of HW? Yeah, HWHC, right? It's just this. Right? And you could say it like, did I write it as a partition? Yeah, it's just a subset of things, right? The thing which contains. Okay, so. We say that person I knows event E at state omega, like it's given state omega, if Pi of omega is subset. Okay, what does this mean? So E is an event. Okay. We're saying that when do you know that an event occurs? The event, you know an event occurs when the bubble around that event, sorry, the bubble around that state is contained in E. Okay, so, for example, so here's my E. Say is this E. At HH, does person 1 know E? So E is the event that someone is at home. Okay? At HH, does person 1 know E?
Yes.
Yes, because the bubble around HH stays within inside E. Right? It makes sense. If you're both at home, I know that at least one person's home. At HW, does person 1 know E? So HW, bubble, right? P1 of HW is the bubble around HW. Does that stay within the E? Yes. When I'm at home and you're walking a walk, I know that at least one of us is home. How about at HC? Do I know event E at HC?
If you're person one.
Yeah, you're person one. Yeah, sure, because the bubble stays inside. Now this is interesting. What about at CH? Okay, I'm at the coffee shop, you're at home. So definitely one person's at home. But does person one know that at this state?
No, because there's the partition includes, or
Yeah.
sorry, the bubble rather.
Yeah, exactly.
is An event, sorry, a state outside of the event. Right?
Yeah, exactly right. At this state, CH, the bubble goes outside. Right? Makes sense, right? I'm at the coffee shop, you're at home, okay? But I don't know that, well, at least one person at home is home even though you are, right? Because as far as I know, you could be taking a walk. Yeah, does it make sense? Okay, I'm the coffee shop, you're at home. One person's at home, but I do not know that. Because for all I know, I can't tell the distance. You could be taking a walk, I can't tell the difference, right? So at this state, I do not know E. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. How about, let's see, how about here?
Not,
Oh.
but two no's.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Right.
person two, yeah.
Right, because they have a, okay.
Yeah, exactly. At CH, person two does know that one person's home because the bubble stays inside. Exactly. Let's see, how about here? At HH, person knows, right? At HC, person knows, right? Because the bubble stays inside. However, HW, this is one's at home, two's taking a walk, right? So it is true that one's at, well, at least one person's at home, but at this state, person two does not know that. Right? For all person two knows, it could be that person one's at the coffee shop. Okay, so does that make sense? So, yeah, so we can use the structure to talk about when somebody knows something. Okay, when somebody knows it. And then what's interesting is we can do the following: the event that person I knows E is, we write it as KIV. Okay? This is simply those states of the world such that PI only subsidy. Okay, so we define what does it mean for somebody to know an event E at a state? This is simply now saying that sometimes you know when an E happens, sometimes you don't. Okay? But we can think of that as an event in itself. That is, knowing something is also an event. So it's given E. This is an event. This is the set of states of the world in which I know the E occurred. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is an event in itself. All right, so let's do an example of this. Okay, so let's say E is this. Say E is going to be what? This is one person at home, H, HW, C, and CH. Okay, what's K1 of E? This is the event that person one knows that E is true. E occurred. Okay, so remember, it's all those states of the world in which the bubble around that state of the world is contained with an E. Right, so if I'm like E, E is this, yes? Okay, so for what states of the world does the bubble stay inside?
HH, HW, HC.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, everything but not this, right? Okay, HH, WC. How about K2 of E? What's that? Do the same picture here. That's my E, right? What's that?
HHCHHC.
Yeah, HHC. Okay, it's kind of fun. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is why it's a very simple model, but you can do fun things with it, which is, how about this? What about K1 of K2 of E? This is the event where one knows that two knows that there's at least one person home.
Is it just the intersection of the two sets, or?
Oh, it's a good question. It might be. What is the intersection?
HC.
HC.
At HH they both know. So that.
Oh, NH or HC, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
At CH, one, does one know that two knows?
it's,
HH and HC.
I think, okay, so yeah, that might work, but let's just
Sure,
let's
sure,
compute
yeah.
it. No, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way, but let's think about that.
Okay.
So let's just compute it out. Well, we know what K2E is, right? That's this.
Right.
Yeah, so this is simply K1 of HH, CH, HC. Okay, so this event looks like what?
But can we separate the events within a bubble? Then we are considering
Mm.
this.
Yeah,
Like
like
HB and HC, does that, can be separated?
Sorry, I don't understand it.
Yeah, you were like talking about the intersection,
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah.
it should be, it shouldn't be like that, I guess, because we are uncertain about HB and HC, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
like
let-
K1,
let's just
HW,
continue.
HC should be
I
the same
yeah.
thing.
they should be.
Within the
should
same
they
list.
be-
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Oh, so I see, okay, so, because person one can't tell between these two things,
Yeah.
right? So what does it even mean to say that these are separate things in here?
Uh,
That's what you're saying, okay. That's a good point. The way to think about it is by writing this down, it doesn't mean that person one can distinguish between these three things. All we're saying is that so these are the states of the world in which one knows E, that's all we're saying. We're not saying that one can distinguish between those things.
Okay.
Right. So all we're saying is, so this is my reasonable E. When they're both home, one knows that one person's at home. Okay, when one's at home and two's taking a walk, or one's at home taking a walk.
If one of them were to like out of E,
Uh-huh.
then we wouldn't be able to put them in this K1, right? Like,
Right, like the CH, right?
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. But I see what you're saying. In some sense, for person one, these are indistinguishable. So what does it even mean to write this? Is that what you're saying, kind of?
I was thinking about a step further, I guess. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think maybe we should just continue and then like maybe
Okay.
discuss it.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Okay. Going back. All I'm doing is I defined this K1 of E, and it seems to work. Right? Makes sense. Now I'm going to be a little kind of push it a little bit. We're just saying, I have this K1. Keep on iterating on this. So what does this mean? This is when one knows that two knows E. And I can just do it by math. So K2 of E I know, I wrote it down like this, right? And so I can just compute this. I'll just use this the same way I did before. Now the event is HH, CH, HC, right? It's going to be like, okay, this is HH, CHH, so it kind of looks like this plus this. Okay. Right, that's what the event looks like. Okay. So it's this, and this. So what is K1 of this thing? Okay, it's not good.
Isn't it just
I think it's just HH, right? Only then. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay. At state HH, I know E, right? I know that at least one person's at home. At state HH, you also know that one person's at home, okay? Because they're both at home. When do I know that you know that at least one person's at home? Only when we're both at home. Okay, why is that? Well, okay, think about it. Okay. Let's try to be confusing. Say that say for example, HC, okay? I know that one person's at home, right? It's in here, right? Because I'm at home. Okay. At HC, you also know that someone's at home, right? Because you're at the coffee shop, and you don't see me there, and there's only two places I can be. Okay, so at
One
HC,
doesn't know whether you're on a walk or on a.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So they don't.
yeah, exactly. So at HC, I know that at least one person's at home. You also know that at least one person's at home. However, I do not know that you know that, right? Because at HC, hold on now, yeah. At H state HC, yeah, I don't know you could be exactly. You could be HW, right? In which case, you'd be taking a walk and you wouldn't know, right? that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Okay. Let's do K2 of K1 of V. What is this? So I'll just do math again. So this is K2 of K1 of V is this. Okay. So now I'm going to use, since it's person 2, so the bubble is this. So so the K1 of V is going to be HH, HW, HC. That's this. Right? Okay. When are the bubbles inside this thing? HHC, exactly. Okay, so what does this mean? If we're both at home, then I know that you know that at least one person's home. If you're home and I'm at the coffee shop, then I know that you know that at least one person's at home, right? Because yeah, at HC, I know that you're at home, right?
Because you're not a coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly, not a coffee shop. And since you're here, so I know that this is the state, right? And therefore I know that this is your bubble, right? You know that, yeah, if you're at home and I'm at a coffee shop, I know that you know at least one person's at home. Yeah. Okay, does that make sense? So this can be a little confusing to think about all these things, but the nice thing is you can just compute, right? You just don't have to, computer, you can just compute it out. Okay. We can keep on going, like, I don't know. What's K2 of K1 of K2 of V? What's that? That says when 2 knows that 1 knows that 2 knows it. At least one person's home. Okay, well, we computed this, what's inside here, right? So this is simply K1 of K2 of V is, I think, this, right? HH. So this is simply K2 of HH. What's that? Just HH, yeah?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. How about K1 of K2 and K1 of U? This is when 1 knows that 2 knows that 1 knows that someone is at home. Well, I know what this is, right? K2 of K1 of V is HHC, right? Okay. What is this? HHC. That event is just these two things. Okay. Just an old HH, exactly. Okay, so now let's try to figure this out. Okay, at HH, 1 knows that 2 knows that 1 knows that someone's at home, which makes sense. You're both at home, right? So you know that the other person knows that you're. Okay, at HC, let's see that. Okay, at HC, 2 knows that 1 knows that someone's at home, right? But at HC, 1 does not know that 2 knows that 1 knows that someone's at home. Yeah? And we can try to figure that out, but we could also just do math. So you can already, basically you can do a lot just with what we have here, like which is great. Okay. Let's see, let's do another example. What's the time? I'm just wondering.
So it seems like maybe the K2 gets you, I mean, I'm just still playing with the intersection idea, but.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, sure.
Broke on K1 of K2, but it seems to have survived K2 of K1, so maybe there's something there, but.
Oh, so you're saying, oh yeah, well, yeah, going back, yeah, you said this would be probably the intersection of these two things,
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't.
Yeah, I see, yeah, exactly, yeah. But I think that that's interesting, there might be a relationship somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some sort of like,
Yeah. But,
I bet that this will always be a subset of the intersection.
mm,
That's what I'm guessing.
mm,
Yeah, because for 1 to know that 2 knows there's an E, it has to be that 2 knows E and probably 1 knows E also.
it has to be in-
Yeah. So this is going to be a sub, I bet that's true, yeah. Now, maybe we'll make that a homework. Yeah, so exactly, maybe, is it true that K1, K2 would be,
By the way, is there a name for like K2, K1 and K2, just like that first order mutual knowledge sort of?
yeah, exactly, there's a name for all this stuff.
Okay.
So this is so-called, well, do you maybe familiar with this? This is how, so 1 knows E,
Mhm.
2 knows E, so there's something called mutual knowledge. Sometimes people call mutual knowledge is a situation where everyone knows something.
Sure.
So that would mean, that's kind of like what you're talking about. This is all those things which one knows E and two knows E. So this would be like mutual knowledge of these things, right? Okay. But you could have something in here which is not this, right? You could have something which is in both K1 and E. Well, for example, okay, at HC, both people know E, okay, but it's not the case that
Yeah, yes, yep.
whatever, yeah, the one knows the two knows E. Exactly. Okay. So this is sometimes called mutual knowledge, if everyone knows it. And then the thing where you know that I know that you know, well, that's called so-called common knowledge. And there's no, it's not a good terminology because common knowledge is used in all these colloquial ways, so it's not the greatest thing, but well, that's usually the distinction made. Yeah. Okay, so we can write that down. Awesome. But, yeah, this would be good. I think you can prove this. Yeah, we could maybe put that in the homework. I'll put together the homework set in a second. Okay, so let's write that down. Okay. Oh, before I leave the example, so look, I think if we do, notice, two know that one knows that two knows that E is going to be HH, right? That's at HH, two knows that one knows that two knows that E. At HH also, one knows that two knows that one knows that E. I think if we keep on putting K1s and K2s and stuff like that, the HH will always be there, right? Because they have that little bubble, right? Okay, so that's kind of this idea. So we say that E is common knowledge if omega is contained in K. I guess I'll write this L1 of K L2 of K L3 about E. Basically, like I did over there, any kind of K1, K2, K3, any kind of sequence for all L1, L2, etc. I guess, I think the last one's K1. So basically, we say something is common knowledge if at a state, if that state is contained in any of these, any sequence of these things, basically K1 and K2. So for example, in this my roommate example, we would say at state HH, okay, E is common knowledge. That's what we would say. Okay, so that's kind of cool already. We can do something interesting with this. Okay. Yeah, good.
Possible to extend this for more than two people?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So here we just do two, but we have one, 3, 4 people. Okay. I'm trying to think. Should we do another example? Say there's a situation, like you say, hey, do you want to go to a party tomorrow? You send them a text, and you don't hear anything. What are the possibilities?
Yes or no?
Well, I mean, whether they go or not, right?
Sorry, not no, yeah.
Yeah, so you send a text, don't hear anything back.
They saw the message.
It could be that they saw the message, right, and didn't respond to you. It's also possible they didn't even get the message, right? So you don't know whether your message to them kind of failed, or maybe their message to you failed. You just don't know, right? Make sense? Okay, so you want to think about this. So say that omega is like, I don't know, say no party. Okay, so that's one possibility. There's no party at all. Okay, and then party, and then the first message kind of did go, like I was lost in Verizon or something. Okay. Another possibility is what? The first message came in, but then the return, of course, we're assuming that they like it, they actually respond. It's possible that your message then went through, but they didn't reply to that logs, right? See what I'm saying? Okay, what's another possibility?
There was no response then?
I guess so. maybe,
Or did you say we're assuming that that's not possible?
you seem that they purposely did not reply.
Yes.
I guess we could put that there too, yeah, why not? Okay, so this means, yeah, this means it was sent, but there's no reply, so. And this means that they replied, but that was lost. Huh? We do that one. Okay. Should we do a few more? Maybe you can set another. Okay, let's do this. What is person one's partition gonna be? Say person one is the person who knows about the party. So person one knows the difference between these two things? Yeah, they know, so they say they're informed of the party. They know whether there's a party, or there's no party at all. There's a party, and the message didn't go through, right? So they can distinguish between these two things.
No party means that the message was sent back, right? That they said that there is no party?
Oh, I'm sorry, no party means there was nothing even to say the first
Oh,
one.
no, okay.
Yeah. This means there is a party, one says, hey, do you wanna go to the party? But that message failed. So I think person one can distinguish this between the others. Can this person one distinguish between these things?
No.
No, right? Person one doesn't know whether the first message didn't get through, or whether the person got the message but didn't want to respond, or they did respond and that the response didn't come back. Right? Makes sense? That's all it is. What about person two?
Wait, but if there's no party, why is one sending a message?
No, so yeah, if there's no party, there's no message sent.
Oh, no message.
There you go. So this little arrow means a message was sent but it failed. Okay. What about person two?
I think he cannot distinguish those two.
Yeah, right. Person two doesn't, if the message is never sent, right, the person doesn't even know whether there's a party or not, right? Okay, how about,
They can't distinguish the last two.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
yeah.
can they distinguish between these two?
yes, cause.
Yeah, exactly, because they put the message, exactly right. So it looks like this, yeah, so they know whether they themselves sent the message back, right? Okay. All right. Let's see. When is it common knowledge that there is a party?
Like in the last two scenarios?
So the party exists, what is, first of all, what is the event of the party happens?
The last three.
The last three, right, exactly, right? So this is my E. Okay, so E is gonna be these last things, right? Party, the first message doesn't go through, party. There's no response. That's my E. Okay. What's K1 of E?
Just all three.
Yeah.
All three, right?
Three,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Okay. It's simply in all these states, person one knows there's a party. What's K2 of E? Maybe I'll use letters. Should I just make this A, B, C, D? A, B, C, D. Okay, so yeah, this is just gonna be what A. The party is B, C, D, right? K1 of E is B, C, D also. Okay, K2 of E is what?
CD?
C and D. Only in C and D does the bubble not go through. In this case, person two knows there's a party. Sorry, hold on. No,
One.
there is a party, but just doesn't know there's a party, right? The message failed. Okay. Now how about K1 of K2 of E? So this is K1 of, well, K2 of E is what? CD, right? So because K2 of E is just, we just wrote down CD, right? What is K1 of this?
Everyone doesn't know everyone.
Yeah, there's no one, person one never knows this, right? Yeah, because the bubble always goes outside CD. Right? What's K2 of K1 of E? This is K2 of BCD. What's that? C and D, right? Yeah. Okay, for example, so at state D, this is where person one sent the message, person two responded, but that failed. Okay. At state D, does person one know there's a party? Yes. Does person two know there's a party? Yes. Does two know that one knows that there's a party?
Yes.
Yes. Two got the message. However, does one know that two knows that there's a party? No. Right? Because
They didn't get a response.
yeah, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Okay. How about this now? What's K? So obviously K2 of one, K2 of K2 of E. This is just the empty set, right? So K2 of the empty set is just empty set. If I just stick it over here. Then, oh, we'll just finish the example. Okay, how about what K1 of K2 of K1 of E? Okay, this is K1 of K2 of K, but this is K1 of CD. What's that? The empty set, exactly. Right, so hold on. So at state C, two knows that one knows there is a party. However, at state C, two does not know that one knows that two knows there's a party. Right? Yeah, because at state C, one doesn't even know that two knows there's a party. Okay. All right, at state C, two knows that one knows there's a party, but at state C, one does not know that two knows that one knows there's a party. Okay. Right? So what's the answer? When is the common knowledge that there is a party? Never, right? Yeah. It's never the case that it's common knowledge is a party. Okay. So that's the kind of thing we can do just for the setup. So next time we'll start talking about the games, and so what you can do is you can manipulate these partitions in a way, so and then it affects what's common knowledge or not, and that also affects what you can play in the game. So that's kind of the punchline will be. Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks. I'll try to work on my camera connection a little better.
I can catch Joshua up.
Okay, cool. I'll post it on the yeah.
See it Midwest.
Is that, yeah.
Do you like going to conferences? I'm just curious. Like, do you enjoy it?
I've only ever been to Southern